In this video, we are going to see why using the Matomo's database rather than using the API can be interesting sometime. So the first thing to know is like the recommended method to export data from Matomo is not by using the database, but it's by using the HTTP API. The reason is that the HTTP API is in fact already cleaning all the data for you. Okay, so the Matomo team, when they created Matomo, they in fact created an API which is really easy to handle, where you can easily extract all the data that you want with the right format, with the right name, and so on and so forth. However, it appears that in some cases, those, let's say, standardized data does not correspond to your needs, and that you need to have an even more customized output, and this is what the database is about. So there are as well other things which could be interesting to consider if you would like to use the database, and this is what we are going to see in this video. But the first thing to know is that normally this is more about using the API rather than using the database. So if you would like, so why would you like to consider Matomo's database? Well, mostly for performance and efficiency. In fact, if you start to have a lot of traffic on your website, you will see that your Matomo user interface is going to struggle. If that's the case, well, it can be interesting to bypass directly the access to the user interface by directly querying the database of Matomo. That's the first thing. Next, but just for you to know that if you do so, you will have to perform custom SQL queries in order to extract the data. So let's say getting this report is not going to be straightforward within the Matomo's database. You will need for this to compose a SQL queries. So for example, something similar to this one in order to be able to reproduce this given report. So it's really technical. If you are using the database, as I just explained, you will be able to make advanced and custom reporting. So in the Matomo user interface, you have, of course, the possibility to create some custom reports. But for some reason, maybe you want to go beyond these needs, and maybe you want to go even more customized. And that's typically what the database will be able to offer you. If you would like to export as well a lot of data, using the database is the best way to go, because even though you can export a lot of data thanks to the API, there are some limitations. So typically you cannot export more than 10,000 visits in one row. You need to use special parameters. And within the list of the parameters for the API that you can use, there is not yet all the possible combination that you can have, only the main one. And in this case, of course, that's probably better to use the database to get straight away what you want rather than browsing the API documentation and not finding the parameters that you want. As well, if you would like to, let's say, export all your data in order to make predictive analytics or to use it with AI, database will be, of course, a better suitable format rather than the API. Another thing, when you are using Matomo, some dimensions are sometimes sampled. Okay, that's the security that Matomo is taking. So you can see it over here. If I just you see if I just make it flat, for example, you will see here the category group name others. It's appearing when the number of rows on a given report is more than 500 rows, 5,000 rows, or 10,000 rows defined within the config file. And thanks to the database, as you have an access to everything, you can get, in fact, the information which is grouped under others. So that's as well one of the main reasons why people are picking up the database. It's as well a very suitable format to export data to data warehouses, as you can just export the full database and that's it. So to sum it up, when is it interesting to use the Matomo UI and when is it interesting to use the Matomo database? So you will use the user interface if you want to access already to all the engineering that the Matomo team built for you. So let's say the most common report that web analysts are using. If you like to get a user-friendly interface, which is of course not at all the case when playing with the database, if you don't know SQL queries, you will be able to take advantage of it. If you want to use some specific features such as the goal, the events or whatever, if you want to easily manage your users, I mean all the features that you can see within the user interface won't be available within the Matomo's database unless you know the SQL query, which requires a lot of work. Of course, there is no Matomo tag manager, and you cannot, let's say, view your data straight away. Okay, you need to create queries in order to get your data. So the use of the Matomo's database will be mostly for people who are collecting a lot of data and don't want to bother with the user interface. Okay, that's really the main thing. And that's it. So to sum it up again, the use of the Matomo's database is really for advanced user, the one for whom the use of the Matomo user interface doesn't really matter and who want to play with a high volume of data.